Today on the Gun Guys and Gals podcast, how do I find the best gun for me?
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Gun Guys and Gals podcast. We're here discussing some of the basics of the gun industry, gun ownership, and we address some of the frequently asked questions regarding guns and accessories. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, and joining me today once again is our wonderful co-host, Hal Skaggs, who is a longtime industry professional and owns the best little gun shop in Central Texas, Guns, Guys, and Gals at gunguysgals.com. Hal.
Hey.
Video part take 2, man. We're going to do this again. Are you ready for this?
If the camera survived the first one.
I know.
Now we'll try again.
But we had fun last time. I had fun. Sure. With video, people get to see how the sausage is made, and unfortunately, they can tell that we wear the same clothes to make the sausage sometimes.
No wardrobe. Well, it's a budget-friendly show
It
here,
is a
guys.
budget-friendly show. I love that. Thank you for joining us, everyone watching right now. Hal, we have done 3 solid episodes, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a part of the episodes, but, we got some feedback on the first couple of episodes, and it's been positive. I saw you post things and you've been getting feedback, people of wanting you to address certain things. I have certainly had people giving me feedback, wanting us to address certain things. And like I had mentioned right before the music started, one of the first questions we got asked was like, how do I find the best gun for me? We can make that a whole episode, and we're going to, right?
Let's do that, yeah.
So, we can also make it a 1-minute episode because is there such thing as the best gun for me, or is that just kind of such a loaded question?
See, so when people say, what's the best gun? There isn't one. It's the best gun for you. Because the best gun for me is not the best gun for you sometimes.
Right, yeah. So let's, can you address the scenarios of what would be the best gun? Like the person who addressed me specifically was wanting to know the best gun for hunting.
Right.
To be fair, they didn't say what season, but that probably will affect what your answer would be, right?
Right. So, and that's our buddy Will, who because he is the jiu-jitsu dojo master, he doesn't really worry about self-defense because he's going to grab people and crush them.
He does it to me multiple times a week. It's humbling.
Nicest guy who could break your neck. So Will, this is for you, baby. I'm gonna address hunting first. So what I always when I used to train people, and one of the things, my first question is, what do you want to do? It's impossible to answer the question if I can't get the context from you, because I can say, well, this is the best one for me. That doesn't help. So first, it's purpose. What do you want to do? Then we're going to, are there any factors that are going to limit your ability to use anything? Do you have, injury to your shoulder? Do you have whatever? If you have a physical limitation that we have to address, if you're blind in one eye, then we've got to figure out how we're going to shoot on that side. When I teach my little handgun class, one of the first things we address is which eye is dominant and which hand do you use, because cross dominance creates an issue. So first, let's go, what do you want to do? So if you want to hunt deer, then I'm going to kind of say, do you want to hunt? Are you hunting in Central Texas? Are you hunting in Texas? Or are you hunting nationwide? Because it affects.
Yeah, so it really does vary. Okay, we're in for a good show. Okay.
So let's talk. So we're going to talk about a rifle, because I'm going to assume rifle hunting in Texas. If you're in Central Texas, it's probably no mystery because there's plenty of them on the road. The deer are not very big. A white-tailed deer is, what we kind of say the size of a big Labrador retriever. So you're seeing 80 to 120 pound deer. I'm going to touch briefly, might be another show or just maybe something y'all run on your own rabbit trail, but it's 1,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy is lethal. And that's what you're going to look for. And so that's why some guns don't work very well. And that's why my threshold typically is a 243 with a 100-grain bullet. You can go a little lighter if you're an expert, but I assume if you're an expert, you're not asking me, what gun should I buy?
Yeah, and not to throw him under the bus, but the person asking was not an expert.
Right. No.
Which most of our viewers and listeners are not experts, right? So they're in the right place. You're in a safe place, guys.
Yeah. So if you're going to hunt deer and or critters in Central Texas, let's talk, 243 or 25-06 is a great mid-range, flat shooting, not too hard on the shoulder cartridge. It's going to let you hunt both deer and maybe turkey, light varmint. And that's probably, if you're asking me on your first gun, I'm going to go take a look at those two. If you are sitting there going, well, I'm going to hunt Texas deer. All I'm going to do is hunt deer, but I'm going to travel around the state, then we're going to get you up in that 270, the classic Jack O'Connor cartridge. Maybe a 280 if you want to be a little different, 7 mag if you kind of want to, I don't care. But, that's...
The grunting is mandatory.
Yeah, well, sometimes, that's where it is. But a 270 is the classic deer cartridge. It will kill any deer, mule deer, axis deer, whitetail deer, even a big body deer at 150 to 250 pounds. 270 will still get it done. Now you say, well, but I might get an elk hunt in, or maybe I want to go hunt a bear, or maybe, and now all of a sudden we keep throwing in the maybes. Every time you do that, we're going to go up in caliber because that's going to create additional capabilities. And when we're saying up, we could do a whole thing just on the way cartridges are named. But Magnum typically means that it is belted and has higher capacity. So you hear mags. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a better cartridge, but it typically means it's a stronger cartridge.
Oh, okay.
When we're saying, just for all you out there, when we're talking about a 25-06, that's a 25 caliber bullet, which is 0.25 of an inch, 0.27, 0.30. And then when we start talking about millimeters, a 7 millimeter mag. Okay. So quick rule of thumb for all of you out there, memorize this, use it every time. 10 millimeter is 0.4. So 28 and 7 mag are the same, 28 caliber.
I will tell you also, listeners, I'll put it in the show notes and then they can write it because I love it. And I love the cup that I gave you. I'm so sorry. I made an appearance, my wife's teacher cup. I couldn't even, the studio is so low budget. I don't even have proper cups to give my guests.
But the water is still fresh.
The water is still fresh.
We're okay with that. So,
but the good thing is about this podcast is even if they didn't memorize it, they can re-listen.
That's right.
And always check out the show notes because the last few shows that we've published, I'm getting better at including better show notes as opposed to just here's what we talked about and go. Because you do. I have this tendency to kind of, I don't want to say rush you, but I do make sure like we stay within like that 30-minute mark, right? And with that being said, unfortunately, sometimes I feel like I may cut you off a little quick when the thought's not there. But that's why the beauty of they can call you for more information. They can go to the show notes, or we can cover it on another episode. But like I said, here's what I'm doing now. I'm cutting you off from being able to talk. So keep on going, and I'll just be quiet.
Well, no. That's the whole point is for you to, you have to talk or otherwise I can drone. So if you're going to hunt bigger stuff, we're going to go like to a 300 Win mag, maybe a 30-06, but we're probably going to go in the mag. We may even go bigger depending. So for you, Will, 25-06.
That's and we're assuming he was talking deer, right? With the season coming up, he wouldn't have asked about dove, I can't imagine, and that is a whole different. That's a whole different.
That needs
question.
A shotgun, and that is a very so. Yeah, and so, but I do want to sum this down because I just give my shout out to our guy. 25-06 is going to give you incredible variability, excellent accuracy, and an opportunity to experiment with a wide range of bullet weights and game. If you want to hunt deer, you're great. If you wanted to hunt turkey, you're fine. If you wanted to go shoot pigs, I mean, it's a great starter cartridge.
Can I throw in a question that would be more relevant to things I've heard, not about hunting at all? So we're going to change gears real quick. I don't know if this is a common misconception, and that's why, thankfully, you're in my studio. Home self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, is that the big deal right now when people approach you, is for self-defense? Or is it, or let's just say the hypothetical customer that does come to you for self-defense.
Right.
Or first and foremost, are you going to steer me? What kind of gun are you going to steer me towards? Like, what kind of style? Like, I know, the long rifle, handguns, shotguns. Like, if I came to you and just initially said, what style would you recommend for home self-defense? What is the first response to that kind of question?
Okay, so the foundation, I think, of everyone's home defense should be a shotgun. I think that's
any particular one, or is it again going to be tailored to the person and the scenario? Like, you're not going to tell probably a 400-pound burly man this kind of gun compared to a dainty 80-pound man as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so in answer to your question, the amount of training, the amount of time you're willing to spend using the gun has probably the greatest effect on what I would be. So I'm going to go back to, what do you want to do? I want to sit it in the corner of my bedroom, and if something happens, I want to be able to make some noise and maybe scare somebody. Yep. That's what I want to do. One of the guns I used to stock all the time. It doesn't sell well online, so I don't do it anymore. But it did sell. Nothing sold, but some stuff sold at the old shop, and one of it was a side-by-side coach gun, 20-inch barrel, and I called it my granny special. And these guns were perfect because it was 2 barrels, 2 triggers. I kind of just said, don't worry about reloading. This is your last resort. You load it, you lean it in the corner. It's never going to not work. If you have a pump, which is, I think, what most people kind of do, if you forget to pump, if you aren't, if you aren't working, and here's, since you talked about defense, I'm going to take one little rabbit trail. We're going to be overpopulated with rabbits by the end of our.
Fault. No.
But under stress, all of your fine motor control skills go away. When you have the adrenaline dump that happens when you are in pure fight or flight mode, and I'm not talking about just that thing, but and anyone who's done it, you get the metallic taste in your mouth. Your gut goes hollow. I mean, you are not in any way, shape, or form feeling normal. When that happens to you, if you have not trained, you're going to forget how to do basic stuff. So your pump becomes a single shot. I will just say one more thing. Please don't rack the gun to scare the guy off. Have the shotgun loaded. The first warning he gets should be, get out of my house, I have a gun, and then pull the trigger if you think you have to.
But it sounds so cool, though.
It is a beautiful,
I blame Hollywood for making it so cool.
Well, the other thing, and here's the thing, thinking strategically, if you rack the shotgun to warn them, what you've done is told them where you are and what you're carrying.
That's a great point. You're right. They know by the noise.
And all of a sudden, I'm kind of like, So, and maybe they run away. I don't know. But what if they don't?
Well, and also, I've always heard too, don't aim the gun unless you're willing to pull the trigger. Is that, or I might be butchering the saying, but do you know what I mean? Like, be ready to be confident in pulling the trigger if you're pointing the gun at an intruder or an invader or whatever, right?
That is such a loaded question.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, okay. this is way more serious than we kind of, we're talking about hunting, and I'm I eat animals, so I'm good with that. We should not take a human life lightly. We should not shoot someone because we can. We should shoot someone because we have no other choice. So while I will agree with the maxim that you should not point a gun at someone unless you're ready to shoot them, I would just, if you can not shoot them, then don't.
We're in agreement on that. So definitely. Well, that's why my wife and I are in agreement too. I never want her to feel unsafe, but like if we, that kind of proverbial, you come home and someone's running out the front door through television, that scenario, I've always told her, yeah, exactly. I'm not going to kill someone over a television. I'm not going to even shoot at someone over a television.
Not over property.
No, that's and again, that'll probably be a whole different episode that someone will write in and say their opinion one way or the other of the aisle that is that topic. But I'm in agreement with you that I don't know if I have it in me to pull the trigger over possessions or I have insurance, right? Like, I'm going to get the TV back in a check from good old USAA. I'll blur that out because they don't sponsor us, so I don't need to name drop them. But property, like you said, self-defense, right? It was what I brought the question up. Home self-defense, not necessarily home TV protection, but home. If someone is trying to harm my family and justify that, could justify the trigger being pulled.
Right. I'm privileged to know a number of people who served in law enforcement and in the armed forces, and several of them have killed people. None of them have in none of those cases was it done lightly, and has it rested easily on them. I mean, the guys who were in the theater, who were over in Iraq and in Afghanistan, they were a little different, but I'm not going to say it doesn't bother them. But the guys I know, cops who've killed people, they're not, they hate it. So, and I don't know, and please, if you're a psychopath, quit listening. So,
that's all who's been listening. Yeah. Oh, you just killed our whole audience base.
But, anyway.
Do you have any advice? Like, do you go through your own kind of vetting process when you are tailoring this? Like when someone comes to your shop and your ideal flow is like, oh, you're brand new. Let's do this course. Let's get you fitted. Do you also do some kind of subtle, not trying to scare people from working with you, but is there do you feel a liability or responsibility to also vet them to, I don't want to say necessarily get to a point where you go, hey, I'm not going to sell this person a gun, because I don't know if you've ever gotten to that point. But do you understand what I'm saying by do you feel some kind of obligation to get to know as best as you can the intent and reasoning behind this person wanting to purchase a firearm?
Right. I guess the short answer is yes. I spend as much time as I can understanding who they are and why they need or want the gun. And I will even go so far as to say sometimes you have to even get past the bluster and see the fear. Women, God love women, because women are so straightforward. They come in, they're afraid, they're crying, they're worried, and nothing, we talked in the last thing, but nothing has given me more pleasure and a sense of satisfaction than taking a woman, and this is my strongest Second Amendment argument, is I've had women who have been afraid for their very lives, who have felt that they could die because of someone who wanted to hurt them, who was armed. And I would spend a whole day with these people. This was not a minor, with a lot of discussion and a lot of practice, and then getting them and having them shoot and shoot and shoot. But at the end of that day, the sense of relief and empowerment that is coming over them is I mean, it's revelationary. I feel I got chills right now thinking about it again because they feel like they can do something that they could not have done 24 hours before. Men sometimes come in and they're talking about this and that, and they're all big and bad, and then you kind of see that they're scared to death and they need a gun because they got somebody who's trying to hurt them too, but they can't talk about it that way.
Right. It is I know people in those scenarios where, the firearm purchase is because they don't feel safe, but they don't talk about it as open. And, I guess it hurts the ego, right, to admit that you need protection. But in the same way that I would train martial arts, or in the same way that anyone would do self-defense of any kind of context, coming and getting a firearm shouldn't be, it's not a shameful process, right? Do you feel like sometimes maybe the media or society has turned it into like a shameful thing? I don't want to throw out any kind of left or right terms here.
Shame may not be the right word, but fear sure is the right word.
Like mongering, right?
I mean, I was talking to a quick aside, for those of you who want to be continually shocked about the wonderfulness of me. I do yoga, and I was talking to one of my little instructors the other day, and I was like, "You really should come take a class with me." And I'd really like for you, because these little yoga instructors are 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing, and I'm like, she goes, "Well," I said, "Look, you will not be any more evil after you touch the gun than before. I'm telling you, it's just I mean."
That's not what I read on Reddit, man.
And I
read that guns are for evil people.
And that's a mocking thing, and I try to make a joke of it. But there are people who just are like, oh, they're just and a gun is, I mean, this pen is just as evil as a gun.
You hear that noise? That's the sound of tons of emails being sent now right to you.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You know?
Yeah, everyone, and no one agrees with that.
No, of course not. But you know what I mean? I know we are. I did take you down a different kind of trail.
No.
But I do feel. I'm sure that like we've mentioned before, that you've got to feel good at the end of that course because I know you have specifically worked with people who were very anti-gun.
Oh, sure.
And I'm not saying you turned them all of a sudden into NRA or whatever the other organizations are out there, card-carrying members. But for the most part, you feel like you successfully displayed your point to them on gun safety, how responsibility is key, right, and knowledge is power, and a lot of people who have opinions on any given topic, a lot of that issue might be remedied with objective knowledge, right?
Yeah. Yes, you're correct. Maybe the first time you've heard that.
I've never heard that in here. Let's just relish that for a second. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, I know I don't have a hot topic issue that I evangelize for, right? I mean, even with religious type of stuff that may be done, So the podcast now. Let me preach to you guys. But do you know what I mean? Like, you are in an industry that is always scrutinized.
Always very political,
very political,
and every time something happens, and it does seem, and I'm sure we all resonate with the fact that a shooting, and then they find out that it's some guy's he's just an idiot, or it's I don't know, and they're all terrible, because someone is dead, but is it more terrible when if a guy kills his family with a gun or drives it off a bridge in a minivan?
Right.
He's just a person who had a problem, chose a really bad way to solve it.
Well, I think an issue too, how as people don't view things, maybe like knee-jerk reactions are very easy to do. And that shooting up at the mall in Seattle?
Sure.
Seattle, right?
Burlington.
People... there are so many. I saw there's this guy in geek culture, Will Wheaton. I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah, Wesley Crusher, right?
Yeah.
Right? Now you know how.
I saw a tweet from him that really blew my mind. That there's this hashtag going around, F the NRA, but it's the 4-letter word. It's not the letter F. And it really blew my mind because regardless of what you feel about the NRA, I'm not a member. I'm apathetic about the NRA, to be honest with you. They had nothing to do with that. Nothing at all to do with that shooting. That guy wasn't a card-carrying member. He wasn't, this NRA advocate, and yet that worked itself into the politicizing of a tragedy, right? How do you feel as a gun owner when these kinds of things happen?
Well, there are two things that I'll address. One, I feel it bothers me when guns are used incorrectly. Guns are made to kill. I think we've said that before. And so that's, the unfortunate byproduct. It would be if there was an epidemic of baseball bats being used to beat the bejesus out of people, I'm sure baseball guys would go, hey, quit taking my tool for my sport and turning it into a terrible thing. So then you've got what you've got is so let's talk about this Washington shooting for just 2 minutes. 20-year-old had some issues, stole guns from his dad, and shot up some people. And as I understand, they were, I don't know why, I guess, probably video games, you kind of people. But
thanks for looking at me.
Yeah. But he took a bunch of guns and they were all like hunting guns. But he broke laws to get the guns to go kill people, which is against the law. So I'm no defender of the NRA. I think they use, this is my honest criticism of them, I think they use fear too much to raise money, and it bothers me. It makes me hesitant to support them a lot because I think they use a lot of hyperbole and inflammatory language, and I don't want them to do that. But they're not, I don't get to control them. So, but I don't think the NRA has anything to do with the availability of the guns that guy was able to use.
Also, wouldn't it be nice if we could stop making NRA synonymous with the Second Amendment? Because they shouldn't be. But a lot of people on both sides of the aisle have it's like Kleenex, right, to face tissue. Where when you say NRA and most people criticizing the NRA, I don't want to create a straw man, but I believe the majority of them are truly criticizing the Second Amendment, and they become one and the same to those people. Like they're not, like I said, I didn't see the NRA come out and make some kind of statement for that kind of hashtag to be made about the shooting. That was just what people, and again, it's, he's not a millennial at all. I think maybe he,
he's closer to my age, the old guy.
Yeah. But I mean, that fan base of his is the millennial, and they're not the only ones guilty of this. I think knee-jerk reactions are easy, and people go to them quickly. And you happen to just be an owner in an industry where, everything is politicized. I don't know of any gun tragedy has ever not been politicized. Like we should be able to mourn the dead before we discuss the politics behind the issue, right?
Yeah. We should let, get the burials done. I understand something like the Pulse shooting in Orlando where the LBGT community.
There's a lot of letters. Not making light of it, but there are a lot of letters.
But
you did good.
Where that community was targeted, we've all, well, maybe not all of us, but some of us have been out at 2 a.m. and we know that the last thing you're thinking about is getting shot at. I get why that one hits a running start. I get that. But every single event that we have is unique, and let's figure out what happened. And that's just true of everything. I don't know. I can't fix this today. So,
I know.
We're gonna roll
for future episodes. I'll stop throwing these loaded questions right in your face and going, "Hey, Hal, answer this, solve this now." Before we wrap it up, let's bring it back into the station.
Let's do that real quick.
The question being the overall question being, what is the best gun for me, because there is no answer to just best gun. So for you, obviously local listeners in the Central Texas area, if they want to know the answer to that question, they can call you. They can email hal@gunguysgals.com, and you can begin that process of getting that perfect gun for them for that scenario. What would you say to the listener who is in Maine or Delaware or out there? What should they do? Should they go approach their local gun shop owner and do the same kind of process?
Well, okay, so we'll hit my notes real quick, just because I think everybody here, you're listening, you're using the internet to find this. So use the internet to find out what it is you think you want. And when I say the internet, I mean, look at objective criteria, stopping power, capacity, if you intend to carry it on your person, or is it a target gun, or is it what have you. Then you do need to get some hands-on. You can do that probably best at a local shop or at a big box store. Just recognize that you're going to have to go through a process. There's a local gun shop here in the area that I used to work for back when I was a kid, and it has a horrible reputation for when people say, man, I walked in there and they treated me like crap. And I'm like, well, you're new. And they've got a lot of old guys, and and you're going to have to establish yourself as a real bona fide customer before you're going to start getting treated like a real bona fide customer. And they're like, well, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But you can't go into Cheers and have them call Norm if you haven't bought a lot of beers in Cheers and gotten to where they know you're Norm. I mean,
it's true. Whataburger is like that with me now. But anyway, I'm digressing.
But that's, so the point I'm making is every one of these shops they either have people who work there who have opinions. You may or may not like them. Keep shopping till you find someone who you can work with. You may find at Academy or at Cabela's or at Walmart or whatever that there may be somebody there that you really sync with. That's cool. That's your gun guy. I think I can do it for anybody who's in the area, but if you can't, but find somebody, put some stuff in your hand, put some stuff on your shoulder. With a shotgun, we didn't really talk, but let's hit this. Shotgun fit is critical. Because with a shotgun, you have to move the gun with you. It's the one thing where you and the gun are participating in movement. With a rifle and a pistol, your job is to be still and hold the gun and let the gun do its job. The third thing is you really should not buy a gun until you have shot something. Get out there if you've got buddies and you can work. But I know so many of y'all, you just don't have the connections. The great thing is the local gun range, Lone Star, they'll rent guns. So go rent a gun, rent a couple, be careful, get good instruction. There's no way for us, there's no way for me to help you gain, 40 plus years of experience that I have with guns in 10 minutes or even 10 hours, but you can get a good start.
Yep. Like you said, use the internet. That was a good wrap up, man. That wasn't even scripted. My goodness, you're doing good. And if that reminds me that we are getting up on wrap up time. I already mentioned the if they're in the area, email you. That's gonna be a great way to get more information. What is the phone number to the shop? I never remember it.
Oh, well, it's 512-277-0484.
And you're happy to help anyone in the area. I know you are because you've helped me a bunch. You've helped my friends. And I think hopefully we helped Will specifically on his question. Sorry for taking us down a bunch of rabbit holes. Hal, I think we did another good episode. I appreciate your time, man. And let's do this.
We'll get feedback and let us know. Yeah. This one may have been too crazy.
We'll do it again next week, though. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Gun Guys and Gals. Find more information available at gunguysgals.com, or you can email Hal at gunguysgals.com. For more entertaining shows like this one, go to pearlmedianetwork.com and you'll see a complete listing of available podcasts. For Hal Skaggs, gunguysgals.com, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. We'll talk to you soon.